welcome. Thank you for joining me at the table. I'm Thomas Dodderwick, and this week I have the pleasure of sitting down with another one of the men in the formation program for the permanent diaconate for the Diocese of Great Falls-Billings, Brenton Seymour. Brenton, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Brenton, why don't you just start off by giving us a little bit of background about who you are, because our diocese is vast and I'm sure most of our viewers have never met you.
Yeah, I am Brenton Seymour. I am the middle child of 7 kids. We big Catholic family. I pretty much grew up most of my life in Joliet. We moved there when I was 5, so pretty much all the sacraments besides baptism were from St. John's.
Excellent.
And grew up there with, you know, when we weren't going to Mass there, when we were on the road, we would always go to Mass. So I have a really good, strong Catholic family, a good upbringing, and you know, a lot of siblings to share the love and stuff with.
And so you're still there in what basically is your hometown. What do? Do you have a family of your own, and what's your career?
Yeah, I have a family. I got married to my wife almost 10 years ago now. It'll be 10 years this December. And then I've actually bought into my dad's company, his HVAC business. Excellent. And my wife and I, for the past almost 3 years, Lucia and I have been doing foster care. Mm-hmm. And it's actually coming down that we're going to probably be able to adopt these 2 young boys that we have right now.
Fantastic.
And so we've enjoyed that. It's had its ups and its downs. And you layer that on top of the formation. We've been busy with that with work, but you know, family life is great. And like growing up in Joliet, we still get together pretty much every Sunday after Mass, go out to Mom and Dad's for dinner. Or, you know, it's not every Sunday, but it's pretty regular. Yeah.
So the faith is really ingrained in you. How is it that you got to the point where you heard God's voice saying, come even closer?
I had a long journey, you know. The faith was foundational in my growing up, but, you know, the prodigal son kind of thing, we always kind of wander away. I did a lot of that when I was a young adult. And really kind of from that moment, I was in a low spot, kind of working a dead-end job. And my mom was like, you should do what your uncle did. And my uncle is a priest with Salt and went down and served. Sure. So I'm guessing Mom wanted me to go down and come back a priest or something like that. But anyhow, I went down, I served, and ended up meeting my wife and just growing in love of service. So I think that was one of the first moments of one of the sisters down there. She told me that I have this servant heart. And so I think that's at the heart of the diaconate. That was one of the early on things, but it wasn't really until I went into a deep method of prayer. It's called Exodus 90, and it's a ascetical program, wonderful program for helping you to detach from the things that are distracting us and overwhelming us with daily life, and really kind of grounding myself in a prayer, a little bit more meditation, and through that exercise and then reading of St. Francis de Sales' book, Introduction to the Devout Life, they all just kind of culminated. And it was, I heard the call and I kind of pushed it off. At that time, it was like, this is very clear. And so after that, I hemmed and hawed a little bit, trying to say no. And I talked to my uncle, Father Dale, and told him about this. And he was just like, well, this is a good and holy thing that you're hearing, and you're in deep prayer. So he's like, just pursue this and let God put up an obstacle. If it doesn't come, then maybe I am called to the diaconate. And here, no obstacle has presented itself. So.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There might be some folks who are watching who aren't really clear on what a deacon is. Could you just put into your own words, what is a deacon in the Catholic Church?
A deacon is the servant heart of Christ out there serving, doing the groundwork that in the field, really just going out. Our priests, we don't have nearly enough. Keep praying for our priests. But even in the Acts of the Apostles, we heard the first of the deacons. There were not enough priests to do the work and go out and feed the hungry and be that servant heart of Christ. And it's the ordained ministry, that beautiful gift that comes with that.
Sure.
And just being a vessel of the Holy Spirit to those who are in need.
You spoke about your wife.
Yeah.
As an ordained minister in the Catholic Church, a lot of people don't think of our ordained ministers with wives.
Yeah.
What do you think that brings to your ministry, having a wife and having had her go through this journey with you? This wasn't a solo journey you've taken.
You know, I think there's a lot of grace that comes from the marriage. No marriage is perfect. We all have our struggles. And so growing in our, just communication, our ability, and that's something that is an ever-going process, especially with me.
Yeah.
I am not the best communicator. And so her constantly calling out the asking for more, always pushing me to go deeper. And I think that is also somewhere that in our ministry, I think I have a clear line of sight where I'm like, okay, this is something that I really struggle with, and now I can share it. Because as priests, the priesthood doesn't really have that at home sharing their daily life. And unfortunately, a lot of our priests are lonely. So I have that as well.
Absolutely.
But I think the family life as well within the diaconate, especially with me, the rest of the candidates, they don't have toddlers at home. So it's going to be different for me.
Sure.
To minister as a deacon with a family. And I think one of the things that I look forward to doing is instilling the heart of service in these young children. And so there's a lot of different aspects that the priest and the celibate don't have.
Sure. And speak a little bit to that. I think there might be some people who might be watching right now, some men especially, who might think they have a calling, aren't quite ready to act on it yet, but they're afraid that ordination to the diaconate would take away from family. And so could you talk a little bit about kind of the order of things, where your responsibilities lie and what actually is kind of your responsibility to the diaconate as opposed to your responsibility to the family?
Well, my first vocation, and I'm not going to be ordained to the diaconate unless my wife participates in this and she says, Bishop, would you ordain my husband? There's an aspect of, yes, I'm going to be serving at Mass on Sunday every time I'm there. And my children, God willing that we get to adopt them, they'll be in the pew seeing their father up at the altar whenever we're at our home parish. Sure. Granted, if we're on vacation, that's not going to happen. But that aspect of not having corrective fatherhood in the pew,
sure,
I think that's going to be something that Lucia has, and she's chosen that. But as far as it taking away from the family, that's something that our Bishop Michael, when he was starting this formation process, he really emphasized he never wanted to have another child of one of his deacons come up to the bishop and say, the church stole my father. He wanted us to always be present to our family, always put our family and guide our family first, because ultimately the role of a father is to be the head of the household. And as a father, and also now as put in a leadership position in the diaconate, that role, maybe the ordination will put some more grace into my fatherhood role.
Sure.
But ultimately the fatherhood and being that head of the household as the role of any husband, that comes first. And then the ministry of serving the poor and the needy and feeding the homeless and the corporal works of mercy, those are things that I can actually involve the children with. Maybe not when they're toddlers.
Sure.
I'm not going to take the kids to the prison. That's not going to happen.
Sure.
But bringing them along on this journey of service, not making them participate in my ministry,
Sure.
but inviting them along to grow in that. I think that's the how we order it.
Brenton, thank you for taking time today to sit down with me and just discuss the diaconate and to introduce yourself to the people of God of the Diocese of Great Falls-Billings.
All right, thank you.